Okay, hello, I'm Shay, or Shaileen Pokress. Shay is fine, and I'm from MIT. I work at the Media Lab. I don't think I have a remote for this, right? I'm just going to do this. So, pretty full room here. How many people here have Android tablet or phone with them? Fair number. Okay, I have some Android devices that you all can borrow. But with this many people, I don't have a mic, right? Okay, I'll just talk louder. With this many people, we'll probably end up working in pairs. Almost certainly work in pairs. Because we only have about 10 phones or so that we're borrowing. So if you have your own Android devices, you could pair up with someone too. That would be great. Before we get started with the hands-on part, though, I'm going to give you a little overview of App Inventor. So how many people have heard of this tool called App Inventor? Okay, not quite half. App Inventor, how many people have heard of Scratch? More. Scratch and App Inventor are similar, and there are other tools like them. Alice is another that are kind of what we call drag-and-drop programming interfaces. So puzzle pieces that fit together that help students learn programming because it's very visual. So App Inventor is based on the drag-and-drop programming idea, and the end result is that you get an Android app. You build your own Android app. So I'll tell you a little bit about how we got this idea and where we are now. So App Inventor is a project of the MIT Media Lab. This is a beautiful picture of the lab and gives you a little background of what our philosophy is there. The Media Lab is mostly a program for people to get masters and PhDs in media arts and sciences, but many people like myself who work there are just staff researchers who keep the programs going and do things like I'm doing now. The Media Lab was founded on this idea of learning through play and learning through building things. You're probably all familiar with Piaget. One of the basic things they teach you when you learn about educating other people is forget the G's, they're supposed to be bullet points, is that knowledge is not supplied by the teacher, but it's built from inside by the learner. And Seymour Papert was one of the founding fathers of the Media Lab. His work is really what made MIT develop this thing called the Media Lab. Extending constructivism into something called constructionism, which is really where Scratch came from. If you know of Lego Mindstorm, that is something that came out of the Media Lab, out of Scratch. Very visual, with sensors and motors and engaging people with hands-on things that they could build themselves so that they feel like creators of technology. And that's really our philosophy, is learning through creation and playfulness. Anywhere, anytime, for anyone. That's why App Inventor is free and available on the web, and why my work is funded through grants. The work of App Inventor is funded through grants, so it's always free. Same thing with Scratch, because we really believe in empowering people. That teachers and learners should be creators rather than just consumers. And I think when we get into building your first app, you'll see that kind of empowerment feeling. And even though you all build the same app, it's very rewarding for me to see people say, oh, and mine works too, even though you know your neighbor got it working. There's something about you programmed it, you got it to work, and that you then see the possibilities for how you can create almost anything you can think of that's very personal to you. These are the guys behind the work of the Center for Mobile Learning. The MIT Center for Mobile Learning is really just a work group inside of the Media Lab. The guy in the middle here, Hal Abelson, is the father of App Inventor, if you will. He took a sabbatical from MIT a couple of years ago, in 2009, I guess that's almost 3 years ago now, and came out to Mountain View in California, specifically with the idea of App Inventor in his mind. And he was basing it off of Scratch, and Scratch is the work of Mitch Resnick, the guy on the bottom here. And he went to the Google engineers and said, here's what we're going to do. We need to build this drag-and-drop programming thing, and it's going to help people access the Android software developer kit without actually having to know how to program Java. And so he got the Google engineers on board with that, and I think it was under development for a year to 18 months. And App Inventor started being piloted by some college professors, I think in late 2009, one of whom is Dave Wolber right here at the University of San Francisco. If you get the App Inventor book, there are now several App Inventor books, but the main App Inventor book is authored by Wolber, W-O-L-B-E-R, and there will be a link at the end of the presentation. so the reason I mention that is that App Inventor has actually been in use by educators for 2.5 years now. Oh, and going back to Hal Abelson. Can I go back? Going back to Hal Abelson, I forgot to tell you how it went from Google to MIT. Is that it wasn't that Hal had intended that it would become MIT App Inventor. It was originally Google App Inventor. And in fact, some people still call it Google App Inventor. What happened was Google Labs was changing its direction. Google often kind of, changes course. They were going to shut App Inventor down. But many people within Google and Hal himself cared deeply about the project and didn't want it to go away. So Google gave the Media Lab seed funding to last for 3 years. We're only at the beginning of year 2 now, to take over running the servers, to hire people like me, and we have a team of developers now. That's all funded by the grant from Google. And we actually are still in coordination with a lot of people at Google because a big part of App Inventor runs on Google App Engine. So there's a strong partnership between Google and MIT still. But the reason it's now MIT App Inventor is because Google wasn't going to support it anymore. So we're very grateful to them for that. I'm going to quickly go through these. Just this is kind of my standard talk when I want to tell people about the Center for Mobile Learning. The flagship tools at the Center for Mobile Learning right now, what makes up our center is Scratch, App Inventor, and something coming soon called Tailblazer. So those of you who are familiar with Scratch will recognize this adorable cat. Scratch is also free on the web, scratch.mit.edu. It's a really nice way to introduce young people to programming. Anyone really, but it is very kid-friendly. You can see it's colorful. The main character is a cat. You can change that into a fish or a dog, or there's a whole gallery of different characters and costumes and things, backgrounds that you can choose from. And you'll see this puzzle piece fitting together type of programming interface in App Inventor as well. Tailblazer is not out yet. It's going to be another puzzle drag and drop interface, but with a specific goal of making location-based you can make a game that's based on a location using GPS. So it's using mobile devices much like App Inventor, but the interface is very tailored to being able to create interactive augmented reality games. Tailblazer.org has some information on it, but in the next few months, the beta version, or I don't know, alpha, the pilot version will be available for testing. But it's going to be several months, maybe even the rest of this year, before Tailblazer reaches the point where it's really usable and there's online resources and all of that. Lucky for us, App Inventor is ready for people to use. There's a lot of online resources. There are several books, like I mentioned. I won't go through all of these, just to save time. So one important thing to keep in mind, and I think probably why many of you are here, is that building your own apps for students of any age, even especially at the older high school and early college age, can be very empowering and personal. And some of the reasons are because of what mobile devices allow you to do. You've got sensors, you've got, it's very socially interactive, which is, has been shown by research that anything that involves interacting with other people tends to attract women and girls more. So the fact that you can make your own, you can interact with Twitter, you can interact with Facebook, you can make a custom texting app. We find that is very engaging for students. The camera, the microphone, and the speakers, it's like any computer program that you've made before, plus you've got this extra level that now your computer program can also view the world or take a picture or a video. And haptic feedback, audio and visual feedback, even just the touch screen, anything that's tactile and you're holding it, it's different than the screen, I find. Even just the way people hold their phones and tablets and interact with them, it's more like a part of you than typing at a keyboard. And that's why we find it so useful for high school and college students especially, because this is part of their world, And then, of course, location aware is so powerful, the ability to use GPS and know where you're located. Okay. So learning through app creation, some of this I've already said. Why is it so engaging? Because mobile apps are inherently personal, meaningful, useful, shareable, specific. We even call them apps, like instead of application, we shorten the word to app. Most apps do just a specific job for you. And portable, you can take it with you. So a lot of, the paradigm is shifting of what would you program? You have to do a project. What's your project going to be? 10 years ago, you might have said, oh, I'll make a little thing that asks someone to enter their name, and then it makes a picture out of their name, or it is a storyline, or in Scratch, it's very easy to make backgrounds and have characters moving through a story. Now that it's shifting, that you can think, oh, I'm going to make something that people will put in their pocket. It'll know where they are. It can vibrate or chime. It they can have their own photograph in there. They can have a photograph of their friend. They can pull up their contact list. All of these very personal, interactive things are now part of what you can think about when you're going to write a simple computer program. I've already mentioned App Inventor is totally free. It's actually open source, too. The App Inventor code is available open source, and that means that people, this is interesting because we have people in China using App Inventor, and in China you can't just go out to any website, so they can't get to MIT, to appinventor.mit.edu. So with the open source code, you can run your own App Inventor server. We don't really recommend that because it's much easier to use our server, but if someone were on like an internal campus internet that for firewall issues or whatever, the IT department wouldn't let you get out to this website, or a high school that wanted to keep everything close by, they could run their own App Inventor server. Not to mention there's a community of developers rising up that are going to probably improve and give us more functionality that we're kind of crowdsourcing out there. You do need a Gmail account, a Google account or a Gmail account. Some people don't realize that those Google apps, the apps for education, when you get a domain name through Google, and really the back end is Gmail, but you can have your own school's domain name, that's a Google account. So actually, if some of you were here when I was logging into my Media Lab mail, Shaileen at media.mit.edu really connects to a Gmail account. So that Media Lab email can let me log into App Inventor as well. It doesn't have to be at gmail.com, but it has to be a Google account. Everything is stored on the MIT servers, by the way, so it's mostly cloud-based. I'll get into that, what I mean by mostly cloud-based. You'll see when we do the installation on these computers that there is a local part to App Inventor, but everything, you need to be connected to the internet on a live connection because the project is stored on the MIT server. So why create your own apps? And this, I think, is often self-explanatory. If you do a little workshop like this with students and they build one or two of the tutorial apps, this stuff, I think, is very quick. People realize it quickly. But you want to customize an app or create one that doesn't exist yet. You have a personal problem or a need. I'm going to show you some examples of these kinds of individual issues that someone else wouldn't have built the app for you. You need to use the phone as a tool. We have this, it's like a Swiss Army knife that you carry around with you. I saw a great thing, I forget, it was called like Pro Tools or something. It had a protractor that used the camera so you could find out the angle of a bridge or a cable or something. It had a level. It had all these, basically what you would carry around in a toolbox was now on the phone. But also, someone made a tree height calculator, a building height calculator. There's a really neat story from a U.S. Marine actually contacted us because he wanted to know how to take the cube root of something using the blocks, with the math blocks. He said, is there a way to take the cube root? And in the process of answering his math question, we said, well, what are you doing with App Inventor? And he was making it basically was a calculator, but it had specific math that he needed for soldiers in the field to diffuse mines. Sometimes the way they diffuse explosives that they find is to actually blow them up, but they'll put dynamite around it, or I don't know what exactly the explosive is, but they need to calculate based on the mass of the mine or whatever it is that how much explosive to use to destroy the mine safely. And this is now a custom calculator that's doing the exact math they needed to do. Yes, you could have done it with a calculator, but then you needed the steps in front of you to remember what to do next. So that's using the phone as a tool. Again, the portability is so important. Even for that Marine story I just told you, to be able to take it into the field with you. With a little device that, for a couple $100s, it's this customized device, which in the world of military equipment, that's really not expensive at all. And they're somewhat expendable, a few of them get broken. It's actually lowering the cost of those kinds of specialized tools. A very powerful thing we've seen, some of the most powerful apps are very simple, but what makes them extraordinary is that everyone using the app can connect to each other. And I'll give you an example of that too. Oh, I don't think I have that slide. I'll have to tell it to you without a slide. But finally, it's fun. It really is fun. Okay, I'll just pull these all up at the same time. The keynote yesterday touched on a lot of what I mean with this slide, which is the pipeline issue, the need to expose people to computing as a basic skill. You know, we teach an awful lot of math that people never use. A lot of people don't end up using in their lives. They don't use calculus. But we often say, yes, you know, you should continue through calculus. For some reason, we don't treat computing in that way. We don't even treat basic programming as a basic skill like reading and writing, and I really think it is. So empowerment, exposure to computing, and in an engaging way can really give students an opportunity that they may not have otherwise realized was something they were interested in. And that's really what I care about and why I do what I do, is that I think we're not giving students the opportunities that they deserve if they are not exposed to computing at all in their K through 12 life. And I actually think that needs to happen by 8th grade. I think middle school is key. But many, many, many middle schoolers in this country, even those that are in honors tracks and great school districts, don't know anything about how the mysterious black box works. They use lots of technology. They know how to program the Wii. They know how to pull up a movie on Netflix or Amazon. They text their friends all the time. They know how to download apps. They play all kinds of games. They know an awful lot about technology, but they don't know what a loop is, or what a variable is, or what an API is. And that's just a basic literacy that we're failing young people if we're not providing. I really feel strongly about that. Okay, let's talk about some apps that, there are so many examples like this. I think I have 4 in here. You can probably see what this does. Of course, I put the title at the top, but if you just read this, it's almost like reading an outline. You can see what the app does. When a text message is received, so the green block is an event handler, when something happens. When a text message is received, set the phone number, set the message, and then send the message. And then the next block down here is speak out loud, which makes the phone, if most devices are capable of text-to-speech now. Speak the thing out loud, and the idea is that if you're driving and you have this app running, your phone will respond to the text and say, sorry, I'm driving right now, and will say out loud, message received from, phone number, and then read off the message. This is the tree height calculator I mentioned. This was done by students at Trinity College who are using the phone as a tool. They're using the tilt sensor to, the phone can figure out this angle, and they actually did a very simple thing where they put in the number of paces they took from the base of the tree. But I've seen another version of this where the phone, I'm not exactly sure how it works, but it might be sensitive GPS or something. The phone knew how far the base of the triangle was. But these students did a pretty accurate, you know, it's within a few feet probably. They've said, we're this far from the tree, and I'm pointing at the top of the tree. Now tell me how tall the tree is. So, basic trigonometry. This was done, I forget if it was in Africa, somewhere where there's a remote place where there's little access to healthcare providers. And some students worked with a doctor and the local health clinic to help analyze urine test strips, because there's a lot of human error in reading the colors, but the phone is pretty accurate. In the right lighting, the phone camera is very accurate. So you can kind of see this little screenshot. They put the test strip down, hold the phone above with this app that was built with App Inventor, and it will put up alerts for which things are off and what follow-up tests are required. And then they can even send that picture off to a remote site for a doctor or a nurse to react to. This is a really cute story about students in a high school in Lawrence County, Alabama. It's kind of cute because, believe it or not, wild hogs are an invasive species. So invasive species is not, you know, I'm not trying to make light of that. But somehow wild hogs are kind of cute. And they are trying to, the scientists, biologists there are trying to deal with this rampant population of wild hogs. And I understand it's not just Alabama. It's in the whole central, south central part of the country. And so this is one of those powerful apps that actually the app itself would not, we could probably build it right now in 10 or 15 minutes. it just takes basic data, the GPS location of where the person is with their phone, and sends it up to a shared database, a shared web page. And so students would go out, and when they found wild hogs, they would say how many they see and hit the button, and it sends where they were and how many they saw. So if you were to get an army of middle schoolers or high schoolers to take this app out into the field, all of a sudden the scientists who are really trying to deal with the problem have the data they need. And there's so many examples like this that, where you can have citizen science in your own backyard type of work. Okay, some things that are on the horizon for App Inventor. I think we're going to see a lot of kind of attachments. Like I said, this could be a tool. There could be a whole chemistry or biology lab right in this phone, connected through Bluetooth or USB. Near-field communication is actually already here. This phone has it. The phones I'm going to loan you don't. But any NFC-enabled Android device with the next release of App Inventor, 1 or 2 releases from now. We have several students at MIT working on these things. So I have seen App Inventor with the NFC component working, but it's a version that we've got running local at MIT. But it'll be out soon. And that just opens up all kinds of fun things. You can do a scavenger hunt with NFC tags, so that your app will be able to read and write to these little NFC tags. And new App Inventor, like I just said, components are being developed all the time. We just updated the Twitter component. If you go on the App Inventor website, I'm going to give you the URL soon. There's a blog, and that is the best way to keep. There's also some user forums, especially App Inventor and Education forum, which you'll see my name on there a lot. I manage that forum. That's the way to keep up to date with what's new and when a new release has happened. Now, if you just log into App Inventor, you're on the newest release. That's one of the wonderful things about it being cloud-based, is that you log in and whatever's the newest thing is already, you don't have to install it. But if you keep up with the blog and the user forums, you'll see what we've just released and what cool new things. Usually when we release something new, like we've recently updated the ability to support Google Fusion tables. Google Fusion tables are kind of like an online web-based spreadsheet, but it's more powerful than that because you can merge different spreadsheets, more like it's basically a database. And now App Inventor can tap into Fusion tables. And so whenever we put up some new functionality like that, part of my job is to make sure there's a tutorial to go with it. So I'll post out to the list, we've added Fusion table support, we've added Twitter support, and we've added another cool fun thing we just added was the ability to detect a flick on the screen. Before you could just detect a touch and a drag. Now you can detect if like there's a ball sprite or something and someone flings it, we call it fling. We made a fun little mini golf tutorial. So anytime there's new functionality that's something that wasn't there before, there will be a new tutorial to go with it that you can follow through and build the app. And then usually when you're done with the tutorial, you have enough understanding that you can go and adapt it or make something completely different. And that's all. So that's the website. You can all go on there right now. I'm going to switch my slide to another presentation because we are actually going to build 2 apps today, I hope. We should have time. This is a double session, by the way. If anybody needs to leave at the end of this first session, it's still worthwhile. You still heard the overview. But to get through the 2 apps, it'll probably take through the second part of this. So go ahead on there, and I'm going to bring up the slides to tell you how to install App Inventor on these machines. And then we'll see about sharing Android devices and all that. The browser does not matter. It should work on any. Internet Explorer is probably the most troublesome. Like even our splash page is broken on Internet Explorer. So I think all of these have Chrome. I guess it would be better to go on Chrome. And let me escape. Any questions while I'm loading the other?
What's the most sophisticated program you have seen?
Most sophisticated. I don't know. What do you guys think? I have Eric Esslinger is here from UC Berkeley, and he uses App Inventor in a pre-service teacher education class on technology. And Maria Anaya is a grad student who works with me at MIT. She's actually at Harvard, but she was interning at MIT. So that's why I'm kind of looking at them like, I don't know, what do you vote for the most advanced one we've seen?
Actually, it's funny because the really exciting stuff is all very simple for me because I work with pre-service teachers with real programming experience. But I did have one student who was doing one of these games where a frog was chasing a bug, or a bug was running away from a frog. in the original version of the game, the frog was very randomly, completely stochastically across the screen, which meant it mostly stayed in the same place all the time because it was a random walk. But this student came to me with this really complicated behavior model for the frog, where sometimes it would move towards the bow, sometimes it would move randomly, and it would prefer to stay moving in a straight direction for a certain amount of time. And it was this really interesting, fascinating set of, and he came to me because he needed some help with his nested and looping and things like that. And he actually said to me, this is my funny story, I need to actually go work on my master's thesis right now, but I can't until I get this thing working properly. That's one of the reasons why I like it.
Yeah.
Not terribly complicated.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I used App Inventor in one of my courses, and one of the things I was trying to figure out is support for using it in a classroom, like submission or sharing between teams.
Mm-hmm.
And either I don't know how to do that, or is it supported?
Yeah, we're working on both of those things. So in terms of like submission or sharing what you've built, we're working on a gallery. Anyone who's familiar with Scratch knows that Scratch is very well integrated. When you're in Scratch, you just say share this, and it goes up on this website. That's Scratch Gallery. We have an App Inventor gallery. It's in beta right now. It's actually being worked on by the guy at the University of San Francisco, along with some people at UMass Lowell. And so you can even go look at that gallery now. Your students could get on it, and that is an easy way for everyone to see everyone else's app. The thing about sharing, like if you have a team of people working together, there is a new tool called the Project Merger tool that you have to dig for it on the App Inventor website because we haven't found a way to. It's brand new. It's finally tested. We think it works pretty well, and it lets two people work on the same app, and then it merges their blocks together. It can work for more than 2 students, but I actually haven't used it enough to even tell you how well it works. So that's like brand new. We know there's a need for people to be able to work asynchronously on the same app and then pull it together. But you're right that until now that hasn't been possible. They would have to take, before they would have had to take turns logging in and working on the app or always be next to each other working on it. Go ahead.
This might be old because I haven't looked at Scratch in a while, but one of the things about Scratch is it didn't have the facility for methods or functions. Does App Inventor now?
Yeah, App Inventor does. You can write your own functions with arguments. There are some issues. I don't know what to call them issues. We've had some debate around how App Inventor handles variables because right now everything's global. Except procedures variables are local, but it looks like a global variable. So you can actually have 2 variables with the same name, and it's hard to see it's hard to know what the scope of those variables are. So so far we're sticking with this global variable thing, even though you can have procedures. And the way that I deal with it with students is to just say, never reuse a variable name. For now, in App Inventor, name everything something different, or use, it's a nice way to talk about naming conventions. So if it's inside a procedure, maybe you have something as part of the variable name. Some computer science teachers have taken issue with us, but this is driving me crazy because I want them to understand scoping, and App Inventor is too messy for me to teach them that. And the answer is, we know, but use App Inventor as the gateway and get them into programming Java, and then teach them all about typing. And so let's move on to setting up and installing, and then we can keep talking questions. There are a lot of people here, but I'm trying to make it conversational, so feel free to, we'll just talk as we go along. So this is what we're going to do now in the next, I think we're done here at 12:20, so we have an hour and 20 minutes. I'll do a live demo with you once we've gotten everything installed. Then together we will build the Hello Per app, which is like our Hello World. Anybody who's familiar with basic like Computer Science 101, you typically learn how to make the computer say Hello World. So our version of that is Hello Per because it's the cat that meows. It's actually Hal Abelson's cat in the picture. Then we'll build a PaintPod app, which is a fun little, it's fun app. And once you're done with it, any of you who have your own Android devices, inevitably people will take it home and say, look what I built today, and it's pretty cool. And then if we have time, we'll do a closing discussion, or maybe we'll do this during the workshop part because we may very well run out of time. I would love to have some time at the end to talk about, after you've played around, to talk about roadblocks you see or questions you have or about taking this back to your classroom. This is a little bit of review of what I just said because this is the workshop presentation.
And I actually have to give a lot of credit to my colleague Fred Martin at UMass Lowell, who I was at one of his App Inventor workshops, and after I saw how he presented, I said, I'm stealing all your slides because he did a great job. So there's the blocks. This is how it works. We're going to snap together blocks. This is actually the code for the Hello Per app. It's going to play a sound. When the button is clicked, it's going to play a sound and vibrate the phone. Something that I find people stumble upon a little bit is that there are 3 different screens. You saw me in the beginning setting up here. The designer is where you pull out components, you say you want a button, you put text on the screen. This is like your development of the screen of the app. Your apps can have more than one screen, but we're not going to get into that today. And then you go over to the blocks editor where you do the coding. In Scratch, this is all on one screen together. Eventually in App Inventor, we will have this more tightly integrated. We're going to put up a completely web-based version in the next few months. I hope it's out, and that'll make things a lot easier. There won't be any more local install once we do that. But for now, we've still got the blocks editor is a local Java program. It runs local on your machine. So that's the install we need to do right now. So just remember, you're going to see design window and blocks editor, and you're going to have to go back and forth between them. The design window will be in whatever browser you launch it from. And the blocks editor will look like a little Java coffee cup in your taskbar because it'll be running a Java program. And then this is the phone. While you're developing your app, you have live testing. Everything you do will show up on the phone while you're building. There's actually an emulator of a phone so that you can have a fake phone on screen if you don't have a device. Some people might choose to do that today just because I think we're going to have a lack of resources, even if we double up. It's much cooler to build on the phone, though, because if you're doing anything that like shakes the phone, the emulator can't do that. If you're doing something that responds to the accelerometer, the emulator can't do that. Excuse me. Okay. The programming model, as I said, is the design interface is where you pull things out, buttons, text, sounds. You say you want the accelerometer component. You say you need a texting component. You say you need a video player. Whatever you need for your app, you pull it out in the designer. And then in the blocks editor is where you say what's going to happen. That's where the event handlers are and the procedures. Excuse me. Okay, so let's go to App. You're probably all there, appinventor.mit.edu. Sorry, this is out of. And there's the setup. I'm going to have to go get a drink of water. But you can start here. Just go to the purple. That's the URL, but you can just go to the purple. Oh, sorry. To get in here, you go to the green button. You'll notice from the green button, you'll have blue and orange. And if you were to go to the blue button, you would have green and orange. One is called the Teach website. That's all blue, and you'll know because it has a blue background. But we're going to the Explore website that's green and has a green background, so you go to the green button. If you accidentally went into Event, you can just go back to Explore. Yes, this works on Mac, Linux, and Windows. So we just use the emulator. Yep, and you can use the emulator on and anything that can run App Inventor, we can use the emulator. And all of those can connect to devices too. But you can't program App Inventor from a tablet on an Android OS or even an iPad. The programming part has to happen on a computer, at least for now. There might be a time when tablets, it's very possible that you will be able to program from a tablet and make an app on your tablet. But right now, that's not how it works.
So you make a program on a computer and use the emulator when you're using a tablet?
No, you make the program on the computer, and your tablet will be connected to your computer while you're developing.
Oh, okay.
Right. You can run the app on tablets, yes. Any Android tablet, yes. Anything running Android. And it supports pretty old versions of Android. I think 2.2 or 2.3 is the farthest back with Android we go. So if you're planning to do this with students, even if you can get a hold of older smartphones, they don't even have to still be on data plans with SIM cards. They can just be what I call Wi-Fi only devices. A lot of tablets are Wi-Fi only devices. You can get those now even brand new for $200. So that's what I use. Obviously, that's what I use in workshops because I have some here. The thing is, if you don't have a data plan, you can't use the phone as a phone, unless you set up Google Voice, which you actually can do. So go ahead and click. When you get to the purple, you're going to go into step 2. I can actually just do this live.
It's just a simple exe file that we need to run. Install App Inventor software. Are we all there? And we're all on Windows, so click there. Windows. Everybody got it? And underneath installing, number 1 here, you just want to click download the installer. And it'll put an exe on your, probably your browser will show that it downloaded an exe and then you have to run it. Oh, I forgot we put a shortcut to this. John helped me set this up yesterday. It's John, right? And there's actually a shortcut from your desktop, but you're probably all here now, right?
We also want to see the steps.
Okay. You need to see all of the setup steps? Oh, the shortcut would have just gotten you to this exe.
Oh.
So once you've got the exe, run it. It'll say, prompt you, yes, install, allow, always allow, those kinds of things. So once you are installed, you can either go down here to start app and, oh, I'm sorry, why isn't that blinking? You can read through these instructions, and if you go to install this at home, you're going to want to go through these instructions step by step, because if you're on a Mac, it'll be slightly different. There's a different installer for Mac. What the installer is installing is a couple of pieces of the Android software development kit and the local Java program. So it's not much. It's actually pretty small what it's installing. This big orange button is huge and orange for a reason, because that's how you get to App Inventor. Once you've done this installation and you're on a computer that you know already can run App Inventor, you can just, thank you, you can just go to this invent button. Even though this invent button has its own URL, beta.appinventor.mit.edu, we still consider it in beta, actually. I actually never use this. I always go to the orange button because it's just a shorter URL. I always go to appinventor.mit.edu, click the orange button, and then you're in. And as you can see, I have a ton of apps under my projects. You're going to have a blank screen. I've been busy. Is it now asking us to log in? Yeah. Oh, that's right. When you won't get your blank, you will not get your blank screen until you've logged in. This is where you need a Gmail account, and if you don't have one, it's probably best to just go set one up. I have a few dummy accounts that you could use, but then you'll forget how to log into those and you won't be able to get your app. So if anybody needs help getting a Gmail account, let us know and we'll come around. It's pretty straightforward at gmail.com. And actually, most people these days have one. It looks like everyone here is not in it. And if your school might be a Gmail account as well. Okay, so once everyone is logged in, anyone who's on the My Projects page and it's blank, just raise your hand so I can see how far we are. All right, so a little less than half of you are there. We'll start coming around to help anyone who's stuck. We're trying to get to this beta.app inventor by clicking on the orange button. You should have a blank here, and you're going to click New Project. I'm going to put up the next slide for those of you that are already there. Oh, before we do that, you need to decide now if you're going to work with an Android device or the emulator or your own Android device. And this is where some of you might want to pair up if you want to use Android devices, because we don't have very many. But I'll start by handing out, like, you do it.
What happens if you think you're going to use your phone and then you end up using the emulator?
The thing that you would, if you are not using a phone that I gave you, you need to go get this Android Companion app, and I purposefully, I can't move that up the screen, but hopefully you can see it. It's a Google shortened URL. An easier way than typing in this URL is if you're logged into your phone, go to the Google Play Store, and you want to type MIT space AI Companion. AI Companion is all one word, and it'll just come right up. That's easier to, this is side loading it, you know, you download the APK. The Play Store is just faster. So the people with their own Android devices, just raise your hand for a second. So, oh wow, a lot of you haven't. So Maria and Eric, let's go around and make sure they see how to do that. The recommended way is to go to the Play Store. Let me just bring up a, this is going to run local on your machine, on your phone, and it's called the Companion app because it goes with App Inventor, and you'll see when you get into App Inventor that you'll connect to your phone wirelessly. Yes. Yeah. So those of you who have a phone that I gave you, you'll find a little Android icon on the desktop or the home screen. It looks like a little Android with wireless on its belly. Load that. You'll need that when you get into App Inventor. So hold on, let me just write that. This is, I'm putting it up there in really big font. It's all, no space. That's here, I'll do it like this. AI Companion. Yeah, it's better to do MIT space AI Companion, all one word. If you do AI space Companion, it doesn't find it, and I think we need to fix that. Okay, then we're going to, once we get everybody who kind of has the app ready to go, I'm going to do a quick demo before we start building the app. And so maybe I'll do that while some of you are still loading. Once you get the AI Companion app, it's pretty quick after that. Okay. Okay. I'm going to show you Hello Per before we build it. Once I get back to my. You can follow along with me if you want, but I'm going to do this pretty fast, and then we'll go back and make sure everybody gets Hello Per done. So I'm just going to put like my initials. You can't have spaces in app names. They have to be all alphanumeric. And you'll see I get a nice blank screen. So I'm going to pull out a button. You drag. Notice that I have to drag to pull things out. I'm just going to show you, and then we're going to do it. I'm going to add an image here. I don't think I have the kitty file, and this is okay because I'm going to show you. Okay. I have a slide for this, so I'll bring the slide up. You don't have to follow this right now, but this is where you get all the tutorials on the website. And I'm going to go into Hello Per, and because I forgot to download my kitty picture. Is it here? Why can't I see it? I'm not. And there's my kitty. If I don't like the text across his face, I can actually just delete. And then I can add I'm going to add a sound, which I also have to go download. Now, here. We're going to walk through this one by one in a second. And what I need to play the sound is, under Media, I need a sound player. And again, I drag it. Yeah, sorry. The sound file I just downloaded, I have to put it onto its sound player. And it was called Meow. There it is. Okay. Now I'm going to go on the, so my app's almost ready to go. And some of you might be building this with me, but we're going to do this together, make sure everybody gets, because this is like the most basic App Inventor. Notice when I clicked open the blocks editor that it put a file down here. Some of you will have to do this and some of you won't. It depends on your computer and your browser. It's actually different for every browser. I can't even tell you like if you're on a Mac, do this. If you're on Windows, do this. Sometimes you actually have to manually open the JNLP file, and sometimes it opens on its own. But as soon as you see the Java app loading, you know you're good to go. Sometimes you'll get a window that says, oh, you're not, that says like, do you trust this source, or always allow files, and you just say yes, yes, yes.
So you open the block editor through the browser?
Yeah, yep. And I could have opened this blocks editor before I started building my app, but it's fine. So now I have an empty, no blocks, because I just started building this app. Underneath my blocks, so this is pretty important to notice this built-in in my blocks. Advanced doesn't get used as much, but these are the palettes. So built-in always has all the same stuff, but my blocks is going to have the things that are related to what I've put into my app. So if I hadn't put a sound player, sound wouldn't be in the list. If I hadn't put a button, button wouldn't be in the list. So what I want to do, really simple app, when the button is clicked, play sound 1. And it knows what sound is sound 1 because I set it in the designer under properties. So this should work now. This actually, let's see. This is how I would connect to a device over Wi-Fi. And I'm going to use my phone. If your phones just don't have QR code readers installed, but they could. And so do you all know what a QR code reader is? You know. Yes. So because I have a QR code reader, rather than typing in the 6 letters, I can just hold my phone up. Come on. Oh wait, sorry. Someone's already got it working. Sorry. You don't do it from the right. You don't do it from the QR code reader. What I should have done is loaded the MIT AI companion app, click scan QR code. It loads my QR code reader. And all the QR code does is puts those 6 digits into the, so I don't have to type them. It's really not a big deal. I could have just typed them. And then it says, listening to App Inventor, your app should display shortly. So you see the cat? And let me turn my volume up. All right, we click the cat. And there's your app. You click the cat meows. That's the whole app. So now we're going to do it together. The helpful thing is that now while we do this together, I'll have these things up here for you to look at. This is all the code you need. But the part that I went through fast I think you're going to need to see again is this. Okay. So we're going to have 2 web pages going at the same time because your App Inventor Designer is in your web browser. And probably what you should do is what I'm doing with 2 tabs here. We're going to go to Hello Per with a phone. And the way we get there is go to the App Inventor website. I recommend you do this with 2 browser windows. When you get to the App Inventor website, go to the Learn tab. Everybody with me? And then click on Tutorials. And this is a really important link to remember, this Tutorials link, because that's where all the tutorials are. And you could actually fashion a whole class out of just following the tutorials. You do? Yeah, because if you're doing a basic class, the tutorials almost follow the Wolver book. If you supplemented your class with the Wolver book, and again, I'm going to give you the URL for that book. The Wolver book is completely available online as PDF. Each chapter is its own PDF. So what I do in my class, I taught some undergrads at MIT this past semester. We mostly followed the tutorials. They did Hello Per on the first day. They did Paint Pot on the second day. The next thing is called Mole Mash, and it's a game. We also had them reading chapters of the book because there are some chapters that are more about like how to design a good app and that kind of stuff. But the beginning chapters of the book are really just these tutorials. So the tutorial tab is very, very important. And if any of you bring this back to your classrooms, you'll probably be telling your students to go here and go through the tutorials. So after you click on tutorials, the very first one is Hello Per. And it doesn't, these are only mildly different. Emulator and phone instructions are just slightly different. And I actually have to warn you, the phone instructions are going to have some old things about the USB cable because we haven't updated the tutorial yet. That's how new this wireless connection between the phone and the blocks editor is. So click the phone instructions if you're doing the phone, and click the emulator if you're doing the emulator. And right at the top, oh, see this download book chapter? That's because this is Dave Wolver's tutorial that's right in the book. Right at the top, well, a little bit down, you see this kitty picture and this meow sound. If you right-click on them, you can save them. I would just save them to the desktop. These computers all get wiped each night, so we can do whatever we want with downloads. So you're going to get the kitty picture and the meow sound. Just download them somewhere on your computer. I recommend the desktop. And then once you've done that, we're going to go back to the designer. Okay, when you've gotten the sound and the picture, just raise your hand so I know where we are. All right, everyone, a lot of people are still downloading the sound and the picture. Does anyone not see where to get them from or not know how to download them? The right click is something that I often have to remind students. Under basic, grab a button and pull it over, just like that. It goes from there to there. It's under basic. Good. As a background, if you want to get rid of the text on the cat face, you can just delete out the text here. If you wanted to do something a little fancy, you could put a label. That's a label. And you could put instructions for the user. Pet the kitty. I can change the color of that text. I can make it bigger. You don't have to do this. I'm just killing time here while you guys. Okay. I could even screen arrangement. I'm going to center this.
After we download the 2 files, we read it?
After you download the 2 files, go into the designer where I am.
Yes.
Load the picture as the background of the button. Over here in the properties. Click on the button. It won't look like a cat yet to you. It'll just look like a little button. And then
It's saving as you're doing.
yeah, it's saving as you're doing. When we get to the next, because I didn't have you all connect to your devices yet. When we get to the next tutorial, you'll get to see the live development on the phone. It's really cool. For now, I just want to, the Wi-Fi connection is brand new. And I hope by taking part in this workshop, you'll see things I've learned from running these workshops is that for the very first app, I like to do this designer stuff, then open the blocks editor, because sometimes we get hung up with everybody trying to open the blocks editor. And it's too much to just say, load the designer, load the blocks editor, connect to your phone. Now we're going to build an app. To me, it's easier to do this, then do the blocks, then connect to the phone. You know.
And you put a picture of his face, and then it was on the screen, and then so I would have you listen to the audio file. Yeah, I love that. I wanted to put this in my experience. We were sharing his picture, and then I had a mic, and I didn't have the option.
There's actually a recorder. You can do a sound recorder component. You could make an app. Like the app itself says record your voice, take your picture, and then you could have made the app actually do all this.
So the thing is, before we came
Or your emulator now, or you program the blocks. It doesn't matter which order you do it in. And in fact, when I'm really developing an app, like not in a first-timers workshop, I usually get it all set up. I have my phone ready to go, and then I'm live testing on my phone as I'm pulling out blocks. So you can actually be changing things about your program, and they're changing live on the phone. As you get to more advanced apps, sometimes you sort of have to prompt the app on the phone to kind of like catch up a little bit. You won't notice that until you get to more advanced apps, but the way that I usually prompt my phone to catch up is that I go back into the designer and like move a button, and then it like resets itself. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my blocks editor, which you'll note, I think I have 2 running. This coffee cup down in the taskbar is the easiest way I know of to go back and forth. Oops. And you're going to pull out under button 1, button 1.click, when button 1.click. And under sound 1, you're going to pull out sound 1.play. And you can actually just pull them out. You don't have to connect them right away. Now I already have this here, so I'm going to delete these. And now once you put these 2 little blocks together, your emulator or your phone should be able to show you the app working. I should start to hear lots of meowing.
Okay. I'm going to say this loud because I think some people might be on the step where you connect the phone to the. Okay. So you first launch the app.
Get Eric or me help you. The rest of you who I think are following along just fine because I hear a lot of meowing, we're going to go back over to, remember, the place that you want to always know how to get to, which is the Learn tab on the App Inventor website. And we're going to click Tutorials. And the thing we're going to do right now is PaintPot. I often use this. I'm just going to tell you what this Magic 8-Ball is because it's a pretty fun thing to do. If we had more time or if we were meeting again tomorrow, I probably would do Magic 8-Ball right now because it's a fun little app that, you know the toy Magic 8-Ball? You shake it and it gives you a prediction? Basically, it's a phone version. You shake the phone and it gives you a prediction. But it just, you program a list of choices, and that way you can customize the list that it chooses from. And it's just a fun app. Students enjoy it because then they can take it with them and tell their friends to ask the phone a question and it makes a prediction. We're not going to do that unless someone really, really wants to build it. You're welcome to follow that tutorial. We're going to skip that for now because it's actually only one step more sophisticated than Hello Per, because it is also similar to clicking a button. You shake the phone, but you click the button and it makes a prediction. So it's one step further than Hello Per. PaintPot is builds off of Hello Per, only in that it uses the cat picture again. I'm going to let you guys follow this tutorial just by reading because we're not going to build this one together at the same time because there are just too many steps for us to make sure we're all on the same page. But just start at the top and read through and you should be okay. It'll show you what you need to do over in the designer. All right, so is everyone there? It's under Learn. On the green website, appinventor.mit.edu, the green button, Learn, Tutorials, and it's the third tutorial down, PaintPot. Okay, I'm actually going to leave that up so you can see how to get to that. All right, right here, Tutorials. This one, PaintPot. Okay, so now I'm going to pretty much just walk around and answer questions.